Lepo pozdravljeni. Naša tokratna gostja je gospa, je ženska, katere življenjska zgodba ni le izjemna, ampak je tudi pričanje o milosti, odrešenju in pogumu. Z nami je gospa Patricia Sandoval. Patricia, welcome to Slovenia and welcome to the Exodus television. So let's first discuss, where do you come from? Where do you live?
I was born in California in the United States, but my family, my parents are from Mexico, so I'm Mexican-American. Thank you so much for having me here as well.
Okay, so your book is quite popular among the anti-abortion movement people. It's called Transfigured, and it's translated in Slovenian.
Right, it's translated in various countries around the world, and it took 8 years to write that book. But for the glory of God, many women chose life, and many men and women that couldn't forgive themselves after having an abortion found God's mercy by reading the book.
So what's your story?
My story is I grew up in a beautiful family. We didn't practice our Catholic faith. We didn't pray as a family, and Jesus Christ was never the king of our home, our hearts. And when I was a young girl, the abortion industry came to my school. When I was in the 6th grade, I was 12 years old. And they gave us a class on sexual education. I never received any type of education or formation at home because my parents never received it when they were kids. So your parents can't give you something that they themselves don't have. My parents never taught me on virtues, so I didn't know that God created me to become a saint. I didn't know what the virtue of chastity and purity was as a child. And I didn't know the sacredness of matrimony and the beauty of sexuality, because sexuality is not something to be ashamed of. It's something very beautiful that God created for marriage and for the fruit of that to be children. So I was educated by the abortion industry at school on sex, and it was a complete distorted formation. And I say that I was a victim of abortion and their lies for the first time when I was 12 years old. And I feel that the abortion industry also stained my purity. You know, as a young girl, I didn't know anything about sex. So what we were taught in this class was that masturbation was something very good and healthy, that we should start exploring and experimenting as little kids, our sexuality. I was taught that you can be attracted to men or women, it didn't matter. I was taught by an abortionist that came to my school that life was not, there was no life at the moment of conception. And a woman that is in their 2nd trimester, that's when life was formed. That's when the child in the womb was an actual person. Before the 2nd trimester, it was just a clump of cells.
In pregnancy.
In pregnancy, yes, thank you. That it was just a clump of cells, that it wasn't a person. And they told us that if you ever find yourself in a crisis, if you're ever pregnant, young ladies, the abortion is a solution, it's the way out, and we can help you. We can take care of that problem. We will never tell your parents. It is your right that you keep your abortion private. And I remember them telling the young men in our classroom, if your partner wants to have an abortion, it's her body, it's her choice. You have no right or voice or authority over that decision. So right then and there, they were basically indoctrinating us. And I thought that true love was sex. You know, they brought condoms into our school. They brought a banana, and they showed us how to practice being responsible, practice safe sex with condoms and a banana. They taught us the use of birth control methods. So when I walked out of school that day at 12 years old, I was already pro-choice. And I thought that love was sex, that when I found a boyfriend, that's how I showed that I loved him. And I didn't know that sacrificing and waiting until marriage was actually true love. And, you know, things were very bad with my parents in 1992 when I was 12, that same year. My mother got very involved in New Age. So my mom was doing a lot of witchcraft and evil rituals. My sister and I experimented with the Ouija board. My mother did tarot card readings and palm readings, and evil went into our house because we opened up the door to evil, and it ruined my parents' marriage. I feel like when you're playing games with the demonic, it ruins a whole family. And one day my mother left. She packed up her bags and said, I don't want to be married. And she felt oppressed being a housewife. So society tells women that if you're not successful and working and traveling the world, or you have a business, you know, if you're home and you're cooking and cleaning, you're not doing anything with your life. You're wasting your life. Mm-hmm. And my mother felt that being a housewife and cooking and cleaning all day, she was a slave, and she felt oppressed. So she said, I want to leave and I want to start living my life, and I want to be somebody.
And that was also very problematic for you as a young girl, wasn't that?
It was it hurt me because I felt abandoned by my mother, and I didn't understand as a child why she left. So I grew up very rebellious, and I've worked with teenagers around the world, teenagers that want to commit suicide.
Today you work with them?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I've been doing this for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've worked with teenagers that are addicted to pornography, drugs, and when I get to the root of their problem, it's either they weren't loved or they felt abandoned by their parents. Mm-hmm. And even if they grew up with their parents, they just don't feel loved by them. And the root of that, a child being rebellious and a child that is hurt, is either a mother or father wound. Mm-hmm. And I was very angry at my mom, and I was very rebellious. And the values I had in my heart as a child was being rich. I just wanted to be rich and famous. I didn't have God. And I was a very good student, straight A's. And, I met my first boyfriend when I was a teenager, 19 years old. And I thought sex and love were the same thing. So we started to practice safe sex, what I learned from school. And the abortion industry does this. It's a trap. They know that parents aren't educating their children on sexuality, on the truth. So they say, we will be their sexual educators. Why? Because they know that if children start having sex, they know that birth control methods, they're not effective, they fail. They know that they will have future abortion patients. Mm-hmm.
And you yourself had 3 abortions.
I had 3 abortions, and that's what happened. So I started practicing safe sex. It's set up to fail. I was pregnant, not once, but 3 times. And to me, it was a crisis. To me, it was what my mother left. 19 years old, pregnant, I'm gonna be now a domestic wife, a slave, a nobody. And I thought and I believed that a child killed your dreams. So I had 3 abortions. And before each one, I was lied to. I was never told about the effects of abortion. I was never told about post-abortion syndrome. I was never told I would suffer mentally, emotionally, physically after each abortion. And pretty much I was suicidal. I had eating disorders. I had emotional roller coasters. I would cry and scream at everything. And I never understood what was happening, what was wrong with me. I never connected it to my abortions. And not only that, my partner, my boyfriend, was suffering post-abortion syndrome as well, because men also suffer after abortion.
And you didn't tell him about all the abortions?
I didn't tell him about the first 2. I lied to him. The last one, he went with me, and he didn't want to go. I remember him telling me, I want to be a father. What about my rights? What about what I want? And I felt that he was trying to take my right and my authority away. And I said, I don't care what you think. It's my body, my choice. You have no say. So I forced him to go with me to that abortion. Mm-hmm. And he also suffered the effects. He got involved with drugs and alcohol. Men usually suffer in a different way than women. Usually they go into addiction more than women. Mm-hmm. And we both were suffering post-abortion syndrome after 3 abortions.
You also used drugs, didn't you?
But this was after I worked for the abortion industry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to work for Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. It is the largest abortion industry in the United States and world. They have clinics and centers throughout the world. So I went to work for them because I thought they were for women. Mm-hmm. I thought they were for the youth, and I wanted to help women. But when I worked behind the doors of Planned Parenthood, I saw the truth about abortion.
What is the truth?
The truth is that they lie, they deceive, they don't care about women, they don't care about motherhood. And I was hired illegally as a nurse. I was never a nurse. I never went to nursing school They needed my Spanish because most of the women that have abortions in the United States are Hispanic that don't speak English. So they desperately needed my Spanish to help women have abortions. And when I had to assist the first abortion, when I stood behind the abortionist, first of all, I noticed how unsafe it is. The abortionist can't see what he's doing inside the womb. And he's got a table of very dangerous instruments. And he's got a vacuum, a big machine that's powerful, and it's literally like a vacuum. The first thing I noticed is he can't see what he's doing in the womb.
So there's no ultrasound?
They don't. They don't do an ultrasound. Most of them don't. And so they don't know if they're perforating the womb, damaging the womb. That's why many women die after an abortion. So many women do die. That's why many women have perforated wombs. And that's why many women can't have kids after an abortion, because it's a blind man's surgery. And I had to be the abortionist eyes. I had to make sure that he got everything out. So when I was escorted to a hidden room behind the clinic, I believed and I thought when they put everything that came out of the bag from the machine, everything that came out of her womb, I had to grab the bag, go to a room, and I had to empty the contents out in a big glass dish. And I thought I was going to see a sack of tissue, because that's what I was told before my 3 abortions. But to my reality and to my shock, there was a baby in pieces in that plate. And I had to find 5 body parts. I found 2 little hands, 2 little legs, and I found a head. And the first thing I noticed on the hand, when it was held up to the light with tweezers, were the fingerprints of that baby. This baby was 3 months gestation, and it was completely formed. And I remember seeing the fingerprints and thinking to myself, the fingerprints identify us as irrepeatable human beings, and it gives us our identity as people. And I will never forget the expression on that baby's face when I saw the head held up to the light. That baby was in agony. That baby was suffering. That baby's mouth was wide open because this baby was screaming in silence and crying, and nobody can hear his voice.
And then you suffered after working in such a clinic?
Yes, I was horrified. Women fainted. Women were dragged down the halls. Women bled to death. It was hell on earth, what I witnessed behind the doors. And I wasn't there very long. And I suffered, knowing that not only did I kill my children, but unknowingly, I was also part of killing other people's children. And I felt like a murderer for the first time in my life. And I felt like trash. So I started to use drugs to heal my pain. I didn't know God. And I was so addicted to drugs that I lost everything. I lost my soul, my house, everything. And I was a homeless person on the street for 3 years, addicted to drugs and suffering. I pulled out all my hair, and I didn't eat. I looked like a skeleton, basically. I had bones. I was a dead woman walking. And one day I was on the streets of California, and I thought I was going to die because I hadn't eaten anything in 5 days. And I started to cry out to God. I actually felt the presence of God. I felt God the Father looking down at me with pity on my soul. And I cried out to him, and I said, I don't know you, but I know that you exist. I had a beautiful family, a beautiful life, and I ruined my life because of the choices I've made. Please forgive me. And at that very moment, I asked for forgiveness. A young waitress ran out of a restaurant. She held me in her arms, and she looked at me, and she said, Jesus loves you. I saw you crying through the window of that restaurant on the corner. I started to pray for you, and God told me that he will never abandon you, and that everything that you've done in your life, he forgives you. And that young girl, her name is Bonnie, after 3 years of being lost and never looking for my family, she took me back home. And when she took me home, I reconciled with my mother. And my mother came back to the Catholic faith when I was missing. And my mother was on her knees for 3 years in front of the Blessed Sacrament, praying for my soul. And it is truly God's divine mercy. It's God who is the King of mercy. And it's my mother's prayers that saved my life.
So why, Patricia, is all this evil happening? Why do we kill children?
Because it's the sacrifice of children, the innocence of purity of children, because they most reflect God. The presence of God lives in children because they're not sinful yet. The devil can't stand the innocence and purity of a child. So the devil can't kill the child Jesus. So he indirectly kills the child Jesus through babies, through humanity. And killing and sacrificing a child gives energy and fuel and to the evil one. The root of all evil in our countries is abortion. Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta said, there will never be peace in the world until there's peace in the womb. The root of all evil is abortion. She would say this.
Mm-hmm. Now you are blessed to have 2 children.
Yes.
And a husband. He supports you very well, very much.
Very much.
Yeah. So you are also in front of the pro-life movement.
Yes.
What do you fight for?
I fight for truth. I fight for women to know the real rights. That abortion is not a solution. That people can support her and her child. That she is loved. That no matter the situation that baby was conceived, even in rape, even in incest, even in the worst conditions, that baby is a gift from God. And that she can have a beautiful life next to her child. Abortion will ruin her life, and it will take the life of her child. But that there are other options, and that God is with her, and that she can do it. She can do it next to her child. So I want women to know that there are other options, and I want the young kids to know what truth is about abortion as well. You know, our society and our countries are blinded by the evil one. In the Bible, it says, Jesus says, there will be a time when good is bad and bad is good. And I feel like today, a lot of young kids, especially the ones that go to university, they're indoctrinated with lies. They don't know what truth is. They don't know what the good is. And they believe that evil is good. So if I can prevent a woman from having an abortion, or if I can just help a young child, a young teenager know what truth is and follow God, then everything is worth it for me. Mm-hmm. And I want to do reparation for what I've done.
And you met some of the children who were saved.
Yes. Yes, I travel. I've done this for 20 years, like I mentioned. I've traveled to many countries around the world. And I've spoken my story. And there were young girls that were in the crowd that were pregnant and they were about to have an abortion. Mm-hmm. And they chose life. Praise God, because of God, not because of me, but because of God. And when I would return to the country, I was able to hold a lot of those children in my arms.
So what did you feel?
God's divine power and mercy. You know, I remember the first little boy I held in my arms. He was a couple months old, and he smiled at me. And I realized something so big. Not only did God save this child's life, but maybe one day this little boy can be a father, a grandfather, his whole generation was saved. Mm-hmm. And I realized that the pro-life movement is not just about saving a life, it's about saving generations. It's very powerful. One abortion takes away a life and a whole generation. Mm-hmm. But when one life is spared and saved, thousands of lives are saved because of that one life.
How difficult it is in the United States to be a pro-life, in pro-life movement and pro-life spokesman?
It's difficult around the world because a lot of people don't agree with you. And so you run against the current, right? You run against what society says. Society says abortion is good for women. Abortion's the solution. But you run against the world. And so you do confront people that are angry with you. You confront people that humiliate you and they laugh at you. But it is a great sign that you're on the right path. Because Jesus said, if the world hated me, they will hate you. But have peace and have joy because I have conquered the world. So what we know as pro-lifers and as Catholics is that the victory is God's. We know who wins at the end. We're called to be faithful. Me, I'm not worried about what people think of me or how they react. I'm worried about being faithful and about planting seeds. The result is up to God, not to me.
But what do they think of you and what do they say?
So at the beginning of my ministry, I was the first pro-life speaker in all of Latin America and Spain to share my story in Spanish. So people had never heard my story, and it was very shocking, even Catholic and Christians. So a lot of people would tell me at the beginning, you're going to go to hell. God is only merciful when someone has one abortion, but you've had 3. You know, you're going to hell, you're condemned. And it was difficult. There was times where I wanted to give up. There's times where I would go to God, And I'd go to the altar and say, Jesus, I don't have to do this. I can stop. I can be forgiven by you and accept that. And I can be normal, you know, and there's times I wanted to give up. But I want to become a saint, you know, and I realized that our crown of glory is not on earth. When we fight for the truth and gospel, our grand reward is in heaven. And we need to be courageous and we need to persevere. You know, we need to be strong, especially during these times. These times are not easy. There's so much evil and lies, even in politics, you know, and we have to be very courageous during this time.
What would you advise women who had an abortion? Do you personally still have a contact with your 3 children that were aborted, or how is it?
When I went to heal my abortions, I went to a healing retreat, and Saturday evening during prayer, God gave me the grace. I saw my 3 aborted children. And when I closed my eyes and I was praying, God gave me a vision. I saw my daughter. Her name is Mariana. I saw my little boy. His name is Emmanuel. And my little girl, her name is Rosario. And when I saw my children, the first thing that they said to me is, Mama. And I never thought I was a mother. To me, when I went into the retreat, I killed my children and they no longer exist. But God showed me that their soul is with them, with Him. And that they are alive. They're more alive now. And that they pray for me. And I want women to know, and men to know too, that have had abortions, that your children live. And your children pray for you. They're praying for your salvation. And that God has him under His care. Our Lady has our children. God told me in that vision that all the unborn children are under her mantle. And I want women and men to know that there's hope. After abortion, there's healing and there's joy. God can restore your life after abortion.
So in Europe, especially in Slovenia, abortion is allowed for a very long time, for many years, and there are still many movements, feministic movements. They want to enforce abortion to other countries. What do you think about the society nowadays in Europe, or maybe also in the United States?
Right, so it's corrupted. Like I said, it's indoctrinated. Especially they go, you know, the enemy goes after the little ones. They want the little kids to be indoctrinated. And, you know, we are called to be courageous and to lift our voice. I have a sense here that a lot of people in Slovenia are a little bit more reserved and they're scared to speak up maybe. Or maybe it's not common yet. But as Christians and as Catholics, we are called to be courageous and to speak up. People in Slovenia are called to defend this evil. And I believe with my whole heart that when we face Judgment Day, we're held accountable. God will tell a Slovenian, and Slovenia in your country, when you were born, women killed their children in the womb. What did you do for your country? What did you do for those unborn children? What did you do for all the Slovenian children that were slaughtered in the womb? Generations were slaughtered. And you didn't do anything, God will hold us accountable.
Well, the argument on the other side is that women don't have the means of living, that they are not economically powerful enough to support so many kids. What do you tell to them?
So what if we have single women in Slovenia that have little children that are born? Is it just and fair to say, you know, you're a single mom, you don't have a job, so let's kill your child? That's not the solution. Killing is never the solution. You know, what Slovenians have to do is support those women, especially the church. If a woman was raped and she's pregnant, or if a woman is single, right, she's not married and she's pregnant, the church should be the first to open their arms and help her. And Slovenians, even if you're atheist, the first response is love and support, not killing. That's never the answer. So I feel that in Slovenia, we need more support to help women that are in crisis. We need more people helping her with diapers and clothes and telling her, you can do this. We're going to help you. You're supported and you're loved. And not only will that heal her, but it will give her a purpose in her life, that she's going to be a better mom, a better woman for her child. It will make her a better person.
Also, the men should be more supportive.
Yes, of course, because men are created for greatness. Men are created to protect the family and protect life. They're the head of the family. So men should be defending life here in Slovenia. That's who should be really fighting against abortion here is the men. So, you know, I feel that most women have abortions because they're not supported by their partner. They're even abandoned by them, like you figure it out. Or the men actually support abortion and force her to have one. Or men are passive. Men just say, whatever you choose, whatever you want, I'll support you. And that's not a real man, you know, defending life. So it's really important that men are men and that especially fathers defend their life of their child.
It's your first time in Slovenia, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So what's the message to Slovenian public?
To be courageous and to fight for truth. You know, we're living in times where, you know, socialism and communism is infiltrating our countries. And it's very important that you are, that you fight for your nation. You know, there's a young boy that just died in the United States, Charlie Kirk. And he was a young man that fought for his country, that had love, and he was a patriot. And he was martyred for what he believed in. And for Slovenia, we have to be the same. We have to be willing to fight for what we love, our family, our marriages, and our country, and for God. So
you travel around the world, basically, and you have the relicts with you. So can you tell us something about the relicts?
Yes, this is a first-class relic here of a young teenage martyr from 304. Her name is Saint Philomena. She is the patroness of the youth, of babies, of purity. And she changed my life because I didn't know what purity was. You know, I had many boyfriends, and I had sexual relations with all of them. And I had to make a decision one day and say, no, I'm going to start all over, and I'm going to be pure, and God's going to give me a good husband, and I'm going to be faithful. So she taught me what purity was. So I bring her, especially to the youth. And for me, it's important to tell the teenagers that it's possible to be a saint, that she was a 13-year-old girl that died for her faith, and that they can be saints too, and they can be courageous during these times. So I travel with her a lot, and she's just a great testimony for the young kids. And we have Carlo Cuti, St. Carlo Cuti here as well. We have a piece of his jacket. I'm believing that it's the first relic of Carlo Acuti's here in Slovenia.
Definitely.
Yeah. And he was just canonized on September the 9th with Pier Giorgio Frassati, another young man. And he was not a martyr, but his whole life he gave to Christ. He is the patron saint of the internet. He helps teenagers that are addicted to pornography, or anybody that's addicted to pornography. But he lived a very virtuous life, and he especially lived for the Eucharist. He's the first person on the earth with the internet to tell all the miracles of the Eucharist around the world, the miracles of the Eucharist turning into meat or blood. So he did a whole exposition of the Eucharist. And he used technology for God's glory. And he is a great example that an ordinary kid like him, who loved Jesus and put Jesus in the center of his life, can become a saint. So we have him here as well in Slovenia.
And another relic?
We have several that are in the back.
Yeah,
of the apostles. I brought 40 relics of the saints here to Slovenia, but we have St. Peter, St. Andrew the Apostle, St. Francis of Assisi, St. Ignacio de Loyola. So we brought a big army of saints here for this pro-life mission here in Slovenia.
So this Carlo Frassati is going to be...
Pier Giorgio Frassati.
Giorgio Frassati is going to be also a figure debated on Stična Youth Days. What's your topic in Stična?
It will be my pro-life testimony, but with the youth, I really like to do Q&A, because a lot of kids have questions. So I like when kids ask me questions. So they have questions about purity, chastity, how to talk to their peers, you know, about abortion, about faith. A lot of kids tell me, I'm scared to talk about my faith at school. They laugh at me. Or, Patricia, I've talked about, you know, pro-life and abortion at school, and everybody comes against me. And, you know, a lot of kids are scared to face their peers and to be bold. So I will be having a Q&A session with the young kids.
In Stična and everywhere in Slovenia?
Yes.
Where do you go as well in Slovenia?
I'm going to, I'm going to see if I pronounce it right. Ljubljana?
Ljubljana, it's the capital, yes.
Yes, I'm going there tonight. I have also here in
Vršnica.
Yeah. Also, I have on the 21st, we will also have worship and prayer, and also my pro-life testimony as well.
So now you have 2 children.
Yes, I have 2 little girls.
How are you going to educate them?
I already do. So they know the saints, and they love the saints. But I also start educating, and they're little. My little one is 3, and my older one is 6. I speak to them a lot about modesty, you know, and about purity. So if my little girls have dresses on, I say this is the way you sit when you have a dress. You know, it's very important to be, you know, to respect God. I teach them about, you know, it's really important to talk about your faith to your little friends at school. And most of all, they know that they're created to be saints. They pray to God every day. They pray the rosary, but they ask God to help them become saints.
How strong is the Catholic Church nowadays, all around the world?
I think a lot of kids, especially in the U.S., are converting to Catholicism. Especially in the U.S., there's been a revival in the Catholic faith. A lot of young kids are going back to the Latin Mass. I've been seeing that a lot in the U.S., the Latin traditional Mass. A lot of women are starting to veil. You know, we lost that tradition. My mother would always tell me in Mexico, when she was a child, you couldn't go into a church without a veil. So a lot of young kids are going back to the traditional Mass, and a lot of women are veiling. So I'm seeing a lot of good things in the Catholic Church, but we still need to speak on issues like abortion, birth control, you know, homosexuality. These are a lot of things that people are scared to talk about. And I think that a lot of these topics need to be addressed in our church.
Do you think this woke idea and woke ideology is dead, or is it going to improve?
I think it's still around, but in the U.S., what I've seen in the U.S. is that people are waking up out of wokeism. People are starting to see truth. A lot of people that are very liberal are actually becoming conservative. I don't know, there's something that's happening in the U.S. where people are opening their eyes. But I do see, for instance, in Latin America, where people are becoming woke and are going more liberal. So for instance, in Mexico City was the only city that abortion was legal. Now it's all over Mexico. So I'm starting to see wokeism being spread like cancer in different countries.
Exported.
And in the US, it's actually going reverse. It's people are opening their eyes and people are becoming more conservative. So I see different things in different countries.
So you are also a TV presenter. You have a talk show. Tell us more about that.
Yes, I work for an international Catholic network called EWTN, Eternal Worth Television Network, and it's founded by a nun, a cloistered nun, and her name is Mother Angelica. She passed away a few years ago, and so it launches around the world, and I have a pro-life weekly show. So on this television show, I give pro-life education, formation, and testimonials.
Do you have any reactions, any good reactions?
Oh, good reactions, yes.
Change anything?
Yeah, so a lot of people tell me in Latin America that they watch my show and that they became pro-life. And a lot of people learn, you know, they have received formation because of the show. But I see more impact when I do conferences, I think, when I do live conferences with people.
Okay, I collected some of your quotes. One of them is, God has forgiven me for so many things from my past. I owe him so much. Do you think that God can forgive everyone?
He forgives everybody that repents with their whole heart. If somebody doesn't ask for forgiveness, then God can't forgive. But anybody, whatever they've done, if you ask for forgiveness with your whole heart, God is so merciful. And that you turn away. Not only does he forgive you, but he always said in the gospel, you are forgiven, but turn away from your sin. So you can't just ask God for forgiveness and go back to that old life. You have to really change your life. And like I had mentioned before, reparation is very important, especially for abortion. So not only did God forgive me, but I have to do acts of reparation for all the damage I've done. And not only do I have to do it, Slovenia, even if you haven't had an abortion, abortion exists in your country and it's a grave sin, you have to do acts of reparation and to ask God to forgive the abortion in Slovenia because it's very offensive to God.
Then another one says, with 3 abortions, I destroyed my own family, the family that was I meant to be.
Yes, I didn't give my children a chance to live. You know, I feel that if somebody would have came to my school when I was little and told me the truth about abortion, my life would be completely different. You know, I don't think I would have gone through what I've gone through, but God permitted it. And I think you know, education and knowing the truth changes the life of a young child. It changes the life of men and women. So I didn't give my children a chance to live, but at least now I'm giving them honor by telling their story.
And there is one, God never gave up. He never stopped calling. He never walked away, unlike me.
Yes. You know, I feel that we're all the lost sheep. We all sin and we offend God every single day. But we are so grateful that God has given us the sacrament of confession because he knows that we're going to constantly offend him. And he's so good. He doesn't give up on us. We can keep going back to confession and asking for his mercy because he's so loving.
And another one, if you've had an abortion and deeply regret, God's arms are always open to offer you mercy.
Yes, I want to tell women, I don't know if that's my camera, but I'm going to look into that. If you have had an abortion and you haven't gone to confession, don't be embarrassed. You know, a lot of women and men, they're so embarrassed and they're ashamed. There's a lot of shame when a woman has an abortion. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be scared. God is waiting for you. He's waiting for you to pour his mercy to heal you and to make you new and to make you strong. And your children forgive you.
So how to fight against evil?
On your knees and with the rosary and with the Holy Mass. You fight it spiritually because we're in a spiritual battle first. But faith requires action, like the Bible says. So not only do you have to pray and fight it spiritually, but you have to use your mouth. You have to use your hands and your feet. Jesus wants to use your mouth. He wants to use your hands and your feet. He wants to live in you and work inside of you for his glory and for the good of your nation.
Don't stop talking about that.
Exactly.
Even they showed with Kirst that actually they killed him.
They shot his throat. They tried to silence his throat and his voice, but it only got louder. You know, a lot of young kids went back to church after he was killed. Thousands and thousands of people that didn't believe in God went back to church after his martyrdom. They say that, you know, St. Augustine said that the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. So every time a martyr died for his faith and what he believed in, Christians would multiply. And that's exactly what happened with the death of Charlie Kirk. So many children and so many families went to church for the first times in their life. So the faith actually multiplied.
Okay, so Patricia Sandoval, thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you and thank God. God bless everybody.
Hvala za pozornost in nasvidenje.